little poem I'd like to read tonight. It's a parent's night before Christmas. 'Twas the night before Christmas when all through the house I searched for the tools to hand to my spouse. Instructions were studied and we were inspired in hopes we could manage some assembly required. The children were quiet, not asleep in their beds, while Dad and I faced this evening with dread. A kitchen, 2 bikes, Barbie's townhouse to boot, and thanks to Grandpa, a train with a toot. We opened the boxes, my heart skipped a beat. Let no parts be missing or parts incomplete. Too late for last-minute returns or replacement. If we can't get it right, it goes to the basement. When what to my worrying eyes should appear but 50 sheets of directions, concise but not clear, with each part numbered and every slot named, so if we failed, only we could be blamed. More rapid than eagles, the parts then fell out. All over the carpet, they were scattered about. Now bolt it, now twist it, attach it right there. Slide on the seats and staple the stair. Hammer the shelves and nail to the stand. Honey, said hubby, you just glued my hand. And then in a twinkling, I knew for a fact that all the toy dealers had indeed made a pact to keep parents busy all Christmas Eve night with assembly required till morning's first light. We spoke not a word, but kept bent at our work, till our eyes, they went bleary, our fingers all hurt. The coffee went cold, and the night it wore thin, before we attached the last rod and last pin. Then laying the tools away in the chest, we fell into bed for a well-deserved rest. But I said to my husband just before I passed out, this will be the best Christmas without any doubt. Tomorrow we'll cheer, let the holiday ring, and not have to run to the store for a thing. We did it. The toys are all set for the perfect, most perfect Christmas, I bet. Then off to dreamland and sweet repose I gratefully went, though I suppose there's something to say for those self-deluded. I'd forgotten that batteries are never included. Oh, so I don't know where you are with your preparation. Hopefully everything is done. And even if it's not, what's important is that our hearts and our love are present, right? Say that to the turkey still in the oven at 5 o'clock tomorrow, I know. So, Merry Christmas. And, I remember standing here last Christmas and I had the same dilemma. It was like I know there's something on my heart to share and I have it all in my notes, but I think I'm just going to allow it to flow forth from my heart. Wow, has this been an intense few months. And here we are at Christmas, and so I was just searching my heart, over the last week, and especially in the last 24 hours as I was preparing for tonight. What is really mine to share? What's on my heart? And in unity, Christmas is all about birthing in our awareness the truth of our Christ nature. In unity, we teach that the same nature that Jesus was, we are. And so on Christmas Eve, as we come together, this is our opportunity in our own being, in our own consciousness, in our own space, for us to claim and birth in our knowing the truth of what we are as divine beings. And the purpose of us claiming and knowing what we are is so we can go out into the world and be the light. Be the love that we are. Jesus in his ministry was quoted as saying in the Sermon on the Mount, "You are the light of the world. Let your light shine so that others will know what they are. And so tonight, what's really on my heart to share with you is that we are the light. And I know that if you come here to Unity of Gaithersburg, you probably have heard me say that many times. It's just tonight, it just feels extra special because we're here on Christmas Eve. And I was inspired as I was creating my message for tonight by the biblical Christmas story again. Because as we read in Luke chapter 2, we see that the shepherds had heard about this Christ child and wanting so much to go and greet him and to give him gifts. They followed the star that was high in the eastern sky. And so what we do in unity with our Bible is that we kind of just take it a little bit deeper and we ask, what does this really mean to us right now? And how can this inspire us? So the shepherds can represent us on our spiritual journey. And so a star is the illumination of our own internal wisdom. See, they received a divine idea that a new consciousness was to be birthed. And in the East always represents transformation. And they knew that as they journeyed from their knowing, from the wisdom of their illumination, that they would behold this new consciousness. They would behold it and they would know its power, the power of the light. And so it inspired me because, you know, also what the shepherds avoided was King Herod. Do you remember that character in the story? King Herod was very afraid of this new birth, of this new life. And so he wanted to destroy it. And so King Herod is metaphysically our ego, when we get in our own way. And so the shepherds bypassed King Herod and continued to journey on their way to the light. So, here we are. And these last few months have been very stressful, I think, for many of us. So what is ours to do to live the light? And what is ours to know and to claim on this Christmas Eve that will support us in navigating and knowing and expressing our light even more brightly? Well, the first thing is that you are divine, and there is nothing outside of you that can ever change that. Your nature is the Christ. And no matter what has ever been said to you, no matter what has ever been done, or you think you have done, no matter what judgment you might have, just like that precious woman in the choir, doubting herself. But as she beheld that new consciousness, she was forever shifted. See, I think on our journey that what is ours to do is that we get to do our inner healing work and let go of judging ourselves so harshly. We do a good job on that, don't we? Yeah. And so in order for us to birth in our awareness the truth of what we are, we get to confront what we think we are not. That is divine and holy and true. And that's a big piece of our work. And another piece is to be able to move in the world, releasing our judgments of others. And there is a story that I want to share with you. And just me announcing it to you puts a big knot in my throat, if you can hear it. It is a story that I love. It is my favorite story. And so please forgive me if I get a little verklempt. But I want to share it with you tonight because I think it speaks to what's possible as we are in the world claiming our light and claiming our inner innocence as we see people possibly that are different than we are. And so this story is called The Story of Christmas Eve Dinner. So I just invite you just to take a breath and just settle in and just listen to this story. This is a first-person account from a mother about her family as they ate dinner on Christmas Eve in a small restaurant many miles from their home. Nancy, the mother, relates, "We were the only family with children in the restaurant. I sat Eric in a high chair and noticed everyone was quietly eating and talking. Suddenly, Eric squealed with glee and said, 'Hi, hi!' He pounded his little baby hands on the high chair tray. His eyes were wide with excitement, and his mouth was bared in a toothless grin. He wiggled and giggled with merriment. I looked around and saw the focus of his merriment. It was a man with a tattered rag of a coat, dirty, greasy, and worn. His pants were baggy with the zipper at half-mast, and his toes poked out of his would-be shoes. His shirt was dirty, and his hair was uncombed and unwashed. His whiskers were too short to be called a beard, and his nose was so varicose it looked like a road map. We were too far away from him to smell, but I was sure he smelled. His hands waved and flapped on loose wrist. 'Hi there, baby. Hi there, big boy. I see you, Buster,' the man said to Eric. My husband and I exchanged looks that said, 'What do we do?' Eric continued to laugh and answer, 'Hi, hi.' Everyone in the restaurant noticed and looked at us and then the man. The old fellow was creating a nuisance with my beautiful baby. Our meal came, and the man began shouting from across the room, 'Do you know how to play patty cake? Do you know how to peekaboo? Hey, look, he knows how to peekaboo.' Nobody thought the man was cute. He was obviously drunk. My husband and I were embarrassed. We ate in silence, except Eric, who was running through the repertoire for the admiring Skid Row bum, who in turn reciprocated his cute comments. We finally got through the meal and headed for the door. My husband went to pay the check and told me to meet him in the parking lot. The old man sat poised between me and the door. I prayed to myself, just let me get out of here before he speaks to me or Eric. As I drew closer to the man, I turned my back to sidestep him and avoid any air he might be breathing. As I did, Eric leaned over my arm, reaching with both arms in a baby's pick-me-up position. Sorry. Before I could stop him, Eric propelled himself from my arms to the man's. Suddenly, an old, very smelly man and a very young baby consummated their love relationship. Eric, in a total act of trust, love, and surrender, laid his tiny head upon the ragged man's shoulder. The man's eyes closed, and I saw tears hover beneath his lashes. His aged hands, full of grime, pain, and hard labor, gently, so gently, cradled my baby's bottom and stroked his back. No two beings ever loved so deeply for so short a time. I stood awestruck. The old man rocked and cradled Eric in his arms for a moment, and then he opened his eyes and set his eyes squarely on mine. He said in a firm, commanding voice, "Now you take good care of this baby." Somehow I managed, "I will," from a throat that contained a stone. He pried Eric from his chest, unwillingly, longingly, as though he were in pain. I received my baby, and the man said, "God bless you, ma'am. You've given me my Christmas present." I said nothing more than a muttered thanks. With Eric in my arms, I ran for the car. My husband was wondering why I was crying and holding Eric so tightly, and why I was praying, "God, please forgive me." I had just witnessed divine, beautiful, unconditional love and trust demonstrated through the innocence of a tiny baby who saw no separation, who made no judgment, a child who saw a soul, and a mother who saw the outer appearance of dirty clothes. I was blind, holding a child who was not. So, this is why I think we have Christmas. so that we can awaken to the truth of what we are. And folks, the thing is, when we get it about ourselves, when we really claim our Christ light, we can so much more readily behold it in others. Others who appear very different from us, others who voted differently from us. Whatever it is in our life that we feel resistance, the purpose of Christmas is that we know, we claim, and we live and express the truth of what we are more fully in the world as the Christ light. That's what Christmas Eve is about. So we take a deep breath with me.